everyone. Welcome to today's edition of our Launchpad live session. Today we have a very exciting panel, how I started my startup. So we have two entrepreneurs and a moderator who is also an entrepreneur who will be kind of sharing their journeys, and you guys please ask lots of questions. So quickly, just a land acknowledgement, the University of Calgary, located in the heart of southern Alberta, both acknowledges and pays tribute to the traditional territories of the people of Treaty 7, which includes the Blackfoot Confederacy, comprised of Siksika, the Pekainai and Kainai First Nation, the Tsuut'ina First Nation, and the Stoney Nakoda, including Chiniki, Bearspaw, and Good Stoney First Nations. The city of Calgary is also home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. Quick plug, we are doing a hackathon. The Hunter Hub is presenting a hackathon as part of the Propel Alberta conference that will be taking place over Reading Week. The problem presentation will be happening on the Tuesday, and then with final presentations happening on Friday. If you are interested, if you can scan that QR code, otherwise I believe it's been posted on our Discord. It will be posted on our Discord channel, and you can also find some more information on the Hunter Hub website. Okay, so today we have, like I said, we have a panel. So moderating the panel, we have Dr. Colin Dalton. He is an associate professor of electrical and software engineering focused on the application of micro-nano fabrication technology to facilitate practical engineering solutions for health. His research interests are in the field of lab-on-a-chip systems, microneedles for pain-free drug delivery, and brain-machine interfaces. His collaborative research started during his undergraduate degree in the UK and has continued throughout his academic career, working with colleagues in other faculties, universities, and companies. He was awarded the 2020 Biomedical Engineering Supervisor of the Year Award, and in 2021, the Faculty of Engineering Early Career Research Excellence Award. He is also the scientific director of the University of Calgary's microfabrication cleanroom facility, where he helps local businesses as well as researchers to develop their ideas into functional prototypes. His research has been patented, and he has co-founded spin-out company Neuraura Biotech in 2017. He's an alumnus of Creative Destruction Lab's Rockies program, as well as the Parex Innovation Fellowship and winner of the Tenant Innovation to Health competition. He has given multiple talks on his experiences in academic entrepreneurship, and is currently teaching at the Schulich School of Engineering entrepreneurial capstone course design. Welcome, Colin. Looking forward to it. Next up, we have Rana Hyatt. Rana is the CEO and founder of Solis, a scientist and a professional hair and makeup artist with over 2 decades of experience. Solis is a biosafety cosmetic company creating the next generation of intelligent sanitation, empowering pro artists and makeup enthusiasts to effectively sanitize their tools while making informed and sustainable choices by providing smart technology that personalizes cosmetic consumption for a healthier and greener world. Welcome, Rana. And last up, we have Jason Hendrick. With over 2 decades of professional experience in the energy and technology sectors, Jason is a distinguished geoscientist renowned for pioneering innovations in technology development, business leadership, and startup ventures. His comprehensive expertise spans data science applications in energy development, geohazard identification, renewable energy, and supply chain innovations. Having held pivotal roles in multinational corporations, startup, and scale-up ventures, he has consistently demonstrated innovation by spearheading cutting-edge initiatives. He continues to leverage his in-depth knowledge to drive transformative advancements in machine learning-based business solutions. Welcome, Jason. So I invite you guys all up to the panel, up to the chairs. I'm going to have you at the far chair. I'm going to have you at the far.
That works. Thank you for the introductions. And because we've had the introductions, I'm going to ask you exactly now to give a brief background on kind of yourself, how you came to be an entrepreneur, and what your current projects are. So I will start with, I think, Rana.
So I grew up, oh, that's really loud. I grew up with parents that owned and operated hair salons throughout Calgary. And I guess with the small business and anyone that knows, like when family owns a business, you have every job. you have a summer job. And through that, I was actually a university alumni with my chemistry degree and sociology degree and my healthcare experience. And so when I became a professional hair and makeup artist, I also decided that there was a big problem in sanitation, and COVID happened, and it was a perfect time for us to actually solve this real problem that the industry was experiencing. And that's where Solis was created.
That sounds like the classic entrepreneur. You saw an opportunity. Everybody else in COVID was having problems, and you saw an opportunity. Fantastic. Jason.
Sure. Unlike most entrepreneurs, I don't have any family background in entrepreneurship, and so I'm a first-gen entrepreneur. But I'd say I'd classify myself as more of a Renaissance person, someone who likes to master all different skills. And so growing up, I was a lifeguard, dive master, ski patroller, lifeguard, again. And then I took geophysics. So just kind of jumped into school, got a degree in geophysics, went to the oil patch, found lots of gas, energy, but I was more interested in research. So I dove into some of the research projects we were doing. We were studying fracking and how they caused earthquakes. And so that led me to doing some really cool research with Stanford University. And I got connected with some really cool people. And one of the people I was working with at the time, her name is Amanda Hall. Her and I co-founded a company called Summit Nanotech. And so we wanted to do something a little cleaner. And so we took off into the lithium extraction space. And so from that, I was really excited about business. Didn't work out as a company partnership. Her and I went different ways, but I decided to do my MBA. So I enrolled in my MBA and took really a focus on entrepreneurial, courses, venture, financing. And so that's kind of where I got to today. I started a company about a year ago with some friends that we worked together at AltaML, which is a local machine learning company. And we thought we could do some really interesting things in that space. So that's how I got here.
Cool, thank you. And for myself, I've been involved with a couple of startups in the UK, and I was involved with a neurotech startup at the UFC before Neuraura. But I'd always been the research side of things was always interesting me, applied research, even when I was an undergraduate. So I kind of got involved for a long time. I was playing around, and then I kind of got involved with actually setting up my own company. But we'll talk about that more later. So a question that comes up a fair bit is aha moments. So it sounded like you had an aha moment during COVID, and you've started a machine learning style. So what was the aha moment, and how many do you have, and do you keep having them, and you've got other ideas in the background waiting to go?
Yeah, that definitely was an aha moment. I've been speaking about the sanitation issue, coming home from doing clients' makeup all the time and just having to do work after work. And that was really annoying to me. And I'm like, how do I make this better? How do I bring hospital-grade sanitation into the space? And there have been many aha moments, like does liquid formulations on cosmetic products actually come off when we use Solis? What's the idea or psychology of what clean looks like to a consumer? How you describe it to male VCs when you're talking about the cosmetic industry that they sometimes don't know a lot about, and how to pitch it. I think there's lots of aha moments in terms of ideation and using some sort of new technology or what the consumer discoveries led to. There's been, we have some exciting news coming up for Solis, but I can't say anything just yet, but stay tuned. In terms of development, we're always looking to kind of stay on top of what new technologies are coming out and how we can integrate it into our company and our development, yeah.
So almost like kind of a lifelong learning, see what's out there.
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
think about it.
Yeah.
I would say our aha moment really came when I was working as a proposal writer. I'd written grants for my kids' school, responding to RFPs. So the government would put out an RFP, a request for a proposal. And so companies would put a bid together. They'd take the time to write a long document, maybe a few hundred pages long, submit that back to the government and hope that they won. But a lot of times you're not winning. Like the success on your RFP is only like 5%. And you're putting 20, 30 hours into an RFP proposal, And so that's a lot of time that you know, not guaranteed to be winning. And so we thought, you know, with these new automation tools, AI and machine learning, we could save some time with both reading and screening RFP documents, but also writing content and creating proposals using some of these tools. So that was our aha moment.
Having been on the school council for many, many years, I appreciate that, or I would have done. Raising $300,000 once, I think, for a school playground. That was a lot of stuff to do and right things to write. So yeah, these new tools are out there to help you, and I'm sure everybody in the university knows about, you know, how AI can help you write things. You know, you see these opportunities in specific niche areas. Okay. So another kind of question around that is then, I wasn't sure if you're a sole entrepreneur or you're a team. Correct.
So I'm a sole founder.
Sole founder, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I have amazing, you know, team and people.
So you came up with the idea and then you formed the business around that and you've got people supporting you.
Yeah.
So how do you find the people?
I mean, they're incredible. It's just like, you have to find your people, right? There's always, you know, the right fit for you. I think that takes some time. But I think in a lot of ways I got really lucky that my developer is an incredible human. So, and it's just like knows the chaos that comes with, you know, developing something or even, you know, iterating in like the quick time. So we 3D printed Solis before we decided to do any manufacturing. We wanted to make sure that what we were manufacturing, because it was so expensive to develop hardware, was right. And it was just like failed 3D prints after failed 3D prints. So you have to find the right people. And when you do, like, they'll kind of like ebb and flow with the tough times, or like, you know, the pain of hiccups, right?
And there will be many.
Always. And you gotta you gotta anticipate that. If there isn't a hiccup, I think there's something wrong.
And for yourself, Justin, how did your kind of team come up with the idea, or did they help develop it, or did you have the idea and get the team to support you?
I think it was definitely my idea, but I'm a data scientist. I'm not a machine learning developer, a software developer, and so I recognized I'm going to need some other people who know that space. And so my first co-founder was an engineer who was also a machine learning developer and really could help me understand that. And but that wasn't a good fit. And in fact, he decided to pursue a different opportunity in engineering. And so I brought on another machine learning developer to co-found. But one of the things that entrepreneurs often do is they front load all their expertise, the tech development, starting the business, playing startup. But you also forget about, you sometimes forget about those back-end things like selling and marketing. And so, and entrepreneurs aren't always the best at, you know, doing email sequencing in HubSpot. Maybe they're the best salesman for their company, but having a sales expert, a marketing expert has been really essential. So I brought on two people, one who's in sales and one's in marketing. And it's their job to, you know, manage business cards in HubSpot. Think about how we're going to do the inbound and outbound marketing campaigns. So putting that team together is crucial.
I find that actually a really interesting comment, because when Neuraura was set up, one of our first hires was in the regulatory space, not the technical space, because we realized we had to make sure that we were going to meet all the regulatory requirements of the FDA, because we were doing a medical product. And so, yeah, we had to think about the team and what was really important, because you have limited resources. And so you've got to work out where you're going to spend it. If you had lots of resources, you wouldn't really be a startup and you wouldn't be struggling. So does your team then contribute again to, you know, future ideas, ideation, the more aha moments, because you have the conversations with them?
I think for me personally, I've actually been really lucky to attend some conferences in the space, and I think those have led to other companies watching other startups or experiencing other companies sort of like try to not necessarily do the same solution and offering, but definitely, you know, seeing other kind of innovations and saying, oh, this could be really interesting to implement into Solis or and I think in the terms of the team, I think what's really inspired me is their tenacity. I think you get to a certain age and it just gets harder, but you guys are so tenacious. So it's like, we love the students, we love the young, you know, ambitious go-getters that are not afraid to actually say like, hey, what about this? I love the ones that I've had an incredible student one time where she was on an investor call with me and she had rebuilt my deck. So I was like, without even asking her, she rebuilt it, and it was just so much more beautiful and more appealing. So it was like she took this time to do that, and it's like, yeah, that was a really good team member there.
Yeah, good answer, for sure. I would say the team has, a lot of times in a startup, you're going to have to pivot in some direction. And a lot of times you're putting your heads together and asking yourselves, is this the right decision for us to make? And so that it's good to have a founding team with different backgrounds that can offer different perspectives. And sometimes a complete outside perspective is really helpful because they might not be in the weeds and seeing it this close. They see it from 50,000 feet. And so getting different perspectives on things can definitely help you make big decisions, sometimes in uncharted territory. We work in AI and ML. That's changing every single day. And so we have to decide, where do we fit in this? What are the risks and threats? We're doing the SWOT analysis all the time. Porter's 5 forces.
Actually, that ties into the workshop recently with Launchpad and also the talk the other day by Kurt on the business model canvas and the SWOT analysis. They're not static documents. You have to be always aware of what is happening around your business. The old days, you wrote a business plan and you kind of shelved it. You got the money from the bank and off you went. No, with the business model canvas, lean model canvas, and all the other ones, you need to be keeping aware of what is happening. Everything is a lot faster now. For myself, I took a completely different route to both of you because I'm an academic, and it was involved with one of my former PhD students, and we had lots of ideas, we did things and stuff. And we actually went into the CDL program and kind of said, we know nothing about business. Help. And you've got to have that vulnerability, I think, as well, to acknowledge you don't know everything. This idea in startups that you have to do everything, yeah, you've got to do a lot, but you also have to acknowledge that you can't do it all and you do need help.
Yeah, I could just add one thing to that. Someone who's, people that really have influenced us have been investors. When they're doing due diligence, they're asking tough questions that sometimes your friends and family are not going to ask tough questions about what you're doing. They'll be friendly and say, oh, that's nice to have. But when you're pitching and, investors are doing due diligence, they're asking questions like, well, what does your competitive space look like? What happens if things change? What are the risks? So they really dive in and ask those tough questions. So we like to leverage those guys too.
No, the tough questions are the ones you need to be able to try and answer. I mean, we were so naive, we went into these programs, and the first thing we got told was, well, you might want to incorporate. Seems obvious, but we hadn't got a clue what we were doing. And we learned a lot, and you will learn a lot from that. So kind of, sorry, Dora.
No, I was just going to say, you also learned a lot about yourself. Like, I grew up in the hair space, right? I was working in the salon. I was talking to customers every day. And one thing that was really interesting was I really struggled to sell my product. I could sell anyone else's product, but I couldn't sell my product. And I call it now like my ugly baby, because it's like you see what's wrong with it as an inventor. You're like, everything that you don't like, you just see it and it's highlighted in your eyes. And then when you see other people like, this is great, this is, it's really, you've done a good job in terms of like the second iteration but yeah, it was really a learning experience, just understanding like, oh, my limitation is sales, which is so unlike, running the salon business.
So one of the first practical things we had to do was incorporate.
Yeah.
What were the kind of practical things you had to do to kind of just progress after you've had the aha moment, you've had the idea, you've maybe discussed it with a few people and think you've maybe got the formation of a team. What are practical things you did to make it a reality?
Well, firstly, we wanted to make sure our technology was like patentable, whether it was utility or otherwise. And so we did a search. And I think, one thing that UBC taught you is always like do your research and don't skip out on that. It's really important to do that piece. So we just kept, researching and reading, and that was like my nightly reading routine. The other piece I did was watching other companies that I was really interested in and seeing if they were also innovating. So like, the big key industry leaders like L'Oreal or LVMH and Sephora, like what were they doing? was I actually building something that was really key or different that would stand out? Would it be something that they would want? And how do you address like sanitation in the beauty space? Like we're talking all things dirty in the cosmetic industry, and do those like key stakeholders want to talk about it, or is it something that they want to not have anyone know about, right? I also did a lot of like Instagram, TikTok research, like real research. You want to know who those competitors are. You want to know who your customer is and how to sell to them, speak their language, understand, use some sort of like AI machine learning to understand who those customers are, track them, and see where their journey is in their referring of products, or their journey in terms of like how they like to clean things in the space, or what they like to use, or what does even like clean beauty mean for them. And I think that was a lot of fun and also screen time.
Yeah, definitely TikTok was very helpful, actually. Like every day you get an update on these are the newest AI like techniques and tools that are hitting the market this week. That's great research, and it's in my inbox, so it's targeted for me. Some of the other things that we did early on, build a website, get our name out there, go to conferences, start talking and validating your idea with real customers. So get on the ground. We had a webinar really early on with an AI tool. We're like, hey, watch this. We had 25 people on the webinar, but we showed them, we uploaded a PDF document, and we just started asking questions about it. Tell me all the dates in this RFP. Who do I talk to? And so we had a bit of interaction, so just a bit more validation, research. Like you said, just keep researching. The things you also have to think about, which the Hunter Hub has been amazing for, is all the other services and support, accountants, legal, marketing, all these other areas. Tap into your network so that you can leverage resources and talk to the experts. And there's even funding and support that's available. So use those as much as you can.
Yeah, when we set up the company in 2017, the Hunter Hub didn't exist. Pierre, my co-founder, had gone through the Hunter Center in the Haskayne School of Business, and he was in Hotchkiss Brain Institute, and they'd only just opened it up for students outside of Haskayne. So he had some information from that. So he had a bit of understanding there. He brought that in. But the resources that are available on campus now are immense. So we went into a lot of competitions, pitch competitions, where we got some actual money, which helped us with getting some of the initial information around our first patent. We got some money for lawyers to look at the patent scene and to look at the regulatory scene. We needed a lot of investors were asking us what class of medical device it was, and it didn't matter how much research we did and said it's this. They didn't believe us. They wanted somebody independent doing that. So actually, one of the things we did was we went to a pitch competition and said that's what the money will be for. So we identified these priority areas and started going, okay, how do we nibble away at them? And how can we get some funds to keep us going to the next step? And we also came to a lot of events. Pitch competitions was one of them, but we also came to a lot of panel discussions. Fireside chats was a new one to me, and things like that, to find out from people who'd done it. So you're all here doing what we did, getting information. So you've mentioned you know fabricating with 3D printing and things. So that would be your MVP, your minimum viable product. How many iterations did you go through it? You said it's your ugly baby. You said you had lots of, I don't think it's great, but other people may have said good things about it. How did you kind of tested it? Who did you test it with? How did you get that feedback that was unbiased?
So the first feedback we had was through the Alberta Catalyzer program. So we had other, advisors that we wanted their opinion. We did customer discovery. So that Instagram social media search, we actually reached out to some of the industry professionals throughout Canada and just said, hey, this is our product. What do you guys think about it? And so we would have one-on-ones and we would kind of film them experiencing the product itself. So Solis I wanted it to be super sleek and I wanted it to be incredibly easy, intuitive, and so we had these magnetic closing capsules, I guess, together, and it was very interesting because they would want to close it. Everyone wanted to close it a certain way. And it was not just one person, it was like everybody. And even when I was actually showcasing in Vegas for the TSA at the airport, was like, how does this work? And the whole MVP went flying and just cracked. And then so when I was pitching it at the conference, I was like, ignore this seam here that was, yeah. So we knew right then, it's like, yeah, just even random customer discoveries. We were like, let's make sure that this thing seals. And yeah, it doesn't come apart when it's closed. So there was a lot of other things. We had a assembly issue because we wanted it to also be sleek. So that was also one of the hardware is really hard, you know, in terms of development, in terms of manufacturing and distribution, exporting, regulatory is also a key thing. Yeah, what does how is it going to power in Europe as opposed to Canada or Korea? And it's like, these are all questions. I was like, that's a great question. Let me get back to you. Let me see. And then you just want to find the right people to help you assist in its charging power, whatever it is. Yeah.
And with things like power, you have to work out, okay, when are we going to Korea? That's next year's problem.
Right, yeah.
I'm dealing with the ones in front of me at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
North America first. That's our phase 1, and then we're going to move into Europe, phase 2. But yes, you're exactly it. It's like one power outlet at a time.
So just AI and machine learning, what kind of MVP did you have? Or did you?
Yeah, for sure. We had an early uploader where there's good apps, really good tools for developing apps. So like Streamlit, Bubble, low code, no code platforms. So we had some early versions of what we wanted, but really seeing the UI and how it worked, that really helped a lot to see how the user would actually use it. But even from pitch competitions, we were too broad initially, and we really had to focus and narrow down and target exactly what we wanted to do. So we went from kind of a broad document processing tool to like RFPs and proposals, and very specific. And even from there, you want to kind of push towards a certain target market to address with your tool. So I think, yeah, we've focused. We've more validation again, but taking feedback from pitch competitions is really important. Yeah, evolving it, and you're always just trying to like. One thing we tried to boil the ocean initially. We just wanted to do it all and really launch it all as well. And we were talking with this software consultant. He said, "What do you guys have right now?" And we said, "Well, we have an uploader and that works really well." And he's like, "Launch it." He's like, "Go for it. Just focus on one piece at a time instead of trying to add all these features to it. You can always add more later." But that really put us on an arrow trajectory towards launch.
Something I hear a lot as well is, you're trying to get it perfect. You want it to be perfect. You're trying to get all the things you want it to be. It's in your mind. You've imagined it. This is going to be the super best product ever. And you need to kind of scale that back a bit and go, this is good enough. That's why the whole concept of minimum viable product. I'm going to give a talk about this in a couple of weeks, I think, about what it's for. And the main thing is to get something in your customer's hands, to get that initial feedback, because you don't want to develop for a whole year. And then the first time your customers get their hands on it, they go, well, this sucks, right? So literally, we were doing device. We went and gave it to a neurosurgeon. The first thing he tried to do was rip it in part. And we're like, oh, he said, because it was so thin compared to what he was used to commercially. And he just kind of went, oh, this is going to break. And then he's like, oh, trying to break this thing. We're like going, that's our product. That's our baby. That's our test device. And it didn't break. Yes. But it wasn't a test we'd thought to do. So your customers will have different perspectives from what maybe you think. Even though you've done all the customer discovery you can think of, get it in their hands, right? Because they will then drop it.
Yeah, they're going to tell you everything that they hate about it. And then also, I feel like they're your first, they're the earliest adopters is what they say. And those people, you just have to, it's all in the conversation too, right? It's like you tell them that it's your first iteration, or you tell them it's like it's the first of its kind. And I think they're more gracious than you anticipate. They're a lot friendlier in terms of their feedback. And they understand too that, that you are a startup and you're trying to do something and kind of change the game in the space, and they're a lot. Their feedback is great. So it's always scary though at first, right?
One of the things, a good piece of advice I had from an investor was never ask for money, ask for advice. And I think that's a great piece of advice when you're talking to even new customers or potential new customers. Don't go up to them and say, I've made this and it's going to solve all your problems. Say, I've made this, what do you think? Does it solve any of your problems? Even if it just solves one, then you've got something, right? But you've got to have a bit of humility on that side of things. So moving into the next question then is, okay, if you'd like to share what happened maybe when you've had a failure and how you dealt with it, because it happens.
Like flashing back to which one? A failure. Do you want to go first? I don't know. I have so many. I'm like, they all blend together. A failure.
Justin, go first. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sure.
Put you on the hot seat.
Well, a lot of times with in software, you're seeing competitors come on the market, and one of the things that, well, even like not even just like a competitor, but like the legacy technology. So one of the investors that we spoke with, he automated RFP writing 25 years ago using a very like crude software tool called LaTeX. And so the first thing he said was, "What do you know about LaTeX? How does it compare it?" And I was like, "I don't know anything about LaTeX." He's like, "You don't know the foundation of what you're doing, and you're trying to automate this." He's like that's a big red flag right from the get-go. So so we had to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, we need to learn the foundations of what we're trying to automate here, because this has been done before. There's problems that have been solved. And so we're currently actually going through that process of learning those original tools, and because like that was part of due diligence with an investor, and he shut us down because we didn't know the foundations of where our technology originated from. So I would call that a big failure.
Okay, I have one now. It was my first failure. I wanted to hire a social media person. I knew that I just couldn't do it on my own because, again, it's your child. So it's like, it's hard to kind of write and design at the same time because you're just so focused on like the research and innovation side of it that you can't get creative enough to be really exciting on social media. I don't know if anyone experienced this, but I found that I was lacking the creativity to actually post really valuable, exciting, like alluring posts. So I hired a social media person and from a very credible advisor, and this person went and took our $25,000 and moved across the country. And we're like, wait a second, aren't you supposed to be in the city for us to do this? So here's someone that just basically took my money and ran away. And yeah, don't do that. Double check, make sure that they actually have, a website of their own, and they actually are someone that you really are aligned with in terms of personality and their own business. So if they don't have a very, exciting personal social media, don't hire them.
Have a
That was our
contract.
mistake. Was that?
Have a contract?
We have a contract. I think that's what allowed us to kind of, mitigate that damage. But it was, how could I do that? It was so incredibly expensive and time-consuming afterwards when we actually got our money back. But yeah, it was very I felt so guilty for everybody that was involved in that process. And then another failure was my grant. We got a grant, and it was exciting, and they get you to spend lots of money before you get any money from them. And we're on 14 months now, and our project is long complete, and we're still not paid. So it's just anticipate that the grant money is going to come in really late, and you should anticipate it before you need it. And I think that was also a big whoopsie.
At least you got your money back.
Yeah, thank God.
That's actually a success.
I would have gone to Texas.
For us at the beginning, one of the hardest things for us to hear from investors is you're just a science project, right? That's, yeah, we're scientists, and we thought there was legs to what we did. We thought there was, we'd done bits and pieces, we'd done business model, and then some investors goes, in a room full of 100 people, and you're on a stage like this, 100 investors in front of you, and they say, you're just a science project. It's not a great feeling. But then we learned what they mean. by that. We met with the investors afterwards, saying, why do you say that? We've done some due diligence. And they go, oh, and we learned from it. So what I've always taken from, even when I don't get grants at the university, yes, I'm very angry to start off with. And then I go, why did I get it? What did I not do? What are the reviewers saying? What's the feedback I'm getting? So
you have to make it very sellable to them. And so you have to change the story, right? So when you have like VCs as opposed to a consumer, you have to really quickly change the conversation and the sentences you're using. I think that was our lesson too, because VCs also thought we were like, oh, and they don't want to invest in hardware because it's going to take so much money for them to even get to sales, right? So, and it's a big risk. So we wanted to how do we de-risk the hardware production line, because we manufacture here in Alberta, so we can actually, mitigate any issues that we're having on the spot, and then on top of it, tell the right story to them.
Yeah, we ended up having different pitch decks with different audiences, and we started doing a lot more, I call it LinkedIn stalking now. Find out about the people you're meeting, find out what they do, what they like, what other, if they're doing deals, look up at Crunchbase, look who they've done deals with in the past. Are they similar to what you're doing in a similar space? What questions did they ask them? So before we went into the CDL, we unconsciously were doing this because we knew somebody had been through the process in Toronto, and they were actually here in Alberta. So we had we went and bought them a coffee, right? And we got some insights onto maybe how to get through the CDL process. And so it's all like getting that background information. It might not be your actual customer due diligence, but you're doing your own due diligence on the different people you're going to work with. So kind of everything you see in the business model canvas, it's external to you. You want to find out how they tick, how they work. Are they going to jump on a plane and run away with your check? Nowadays there might be some information online that somebody says that.
That's exactly how we found out. I was looking at our Instagram, I was like, wait a second, what? No, is this temporary? And then I'm like, no, it's real. Uh-oh. It's like, how do I tell the team this? Yeah.
I was just joking about that. And it was actually how you did it. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so, get to know the people, get to know things, and build from the failure, learn from it. And this is the hardest part. Don't take it personally. It's your baby. It's something you've invested time and money and effort in, and somebody else has turned around and say, you're just a science project. That, you're like going, grrr, I'm going to throw it all in. So this leads into my next question, what are the top three, or what you think are the top three kind of skills or personality traits entrepreneurs should have?
Say yes and figure it out. If that deal is... When they come with that, they want to have you in your store. Could you be ready in 8 months? You say yes and figure it out. The other one is, like you said, it was don't be afraid. Don't take it personal. I grew up with 3 brothers, so I felt like I got that beat into me. They just told me all sorts of things to my face, and so I was just used to the I don't want to call it bullying. I was just sibling love, I'd say. So but also ask questions. So when they have the feedback to you, also ask them why. Understand. Of course you're gonna get upset. I always get upset when that comment happens. Someone once told me what's a girl in hair and makeup doing in a place like this? And I'm like, whoa. But it's interesting because it's am I not defining this problem for you enough? Is the solution not technical? What's the conversation there? So you get upset, but then you have to kind of pivot and say, oh, maybe there's something behind that comment. Because a lot of times they're not ill-intentioned. That's just how they see you. And if you only have that 15 seconds to win them over, define what that looks like for them so you can actually get proper feedback. Always see it as customer discovery.
I was going to build on that and the messaging side of things. It might seem very brutal, very harsh, very rude in some instances. But if you think about these investors, they are seeing multiple pitch decks every day, right? So if you don't really engage with them and they don't understand within 30 seconds, good luck. They're going to go, okay, next, because there's going to be so many more in the pipeline, right? So they're just they don't want to waste time. And they don't want to waste your time either. If you're not a good fit for what their portfolio is, you're wasting your time pitching to them. Right.
Wow, those are amazing answers. Good work. I'll take that advice too. I think when it comes to, skills to have, probably listen. Just listen to the feedback you're getting. Listen to the market. Listen to your team. Because, when your head's down and you're working hard, you don't always see what's going on around you. And so, check in every so often with people. Make sure you're on the right track. Check in with investors. Check in with the market to see if, things have changed. Your customers changed. So yeah, and be quick to adapt. Like, it can be hard sometimes, but you got to be on your feet. You might have to change directions. Full pivots, they're not always going to happen, but when they do happen, how do you handle that? Does that change things? Are your hands tied with an investor and you can't actually pivot the way you want to? So, yeah.
Yeah, I'd add one more thing, and I think because we focus so much on like building this business and we should be in it like 24/7 and talking about it, and like our friends should be like so up to date on like what we're doing. It's like, no, don't entrap your friends. Like, make sure to have other conversations and learn to be social. I think one thing that I always kept saying was I need to get out of my office because there's not enough time in the day for me to get it done. But I noticed that I was actually growing faster when I was interacting with fellow founders, or I was actually troubleshooting with other founders, not my own company though. I was actually helping them get to where they need. And it actually allowed me to step away from my business and then realize that, oh, this is like an application I could potentially use. Or in the conversation of you helping this other person or just hanging out with people, you'll start to realize, oh, there's a solution for that. It's like your brain needs a break, and hanging out with the like-minded folks outside of your team is actually a really valuable personality trait to have.
Well, yeah, there's so many books out there on how to do ideation, idea generation. And a lot of it is kind of, getting you out of your comfort zone, getting you out of what you do normally on a day-to-day basis, so your brain can freely associate things and make ideas and connections. So, as I said, you go to events like this, you go to events by Platform Calgary or wherever, you get to meet other people, you do the networking, you bounce ideas around, and you think, oh, that's something that might apply to me, which you wouldn't have had that thought just sitting alone in your room, in your office, going, I need to find a solution, right? You go out there, you talk about things, and it comes. One of the things, one that happened to us was there was a competition we were entering, and they said, what are the top 3 questions you don't want us to ask you? Because you always know those questions you dread somebody's going to ask, right? You're going, this is a question I really hope they don't ask me. And they're like going, write it down and tell us why. And that's then forcing you to think about, okay, why is that a problem? Why don't I want to answer this question? You've got to face yourself and go, well, I know if the neurosurgeon's going to pull it, it's going to rip. I don't want to give it to my neurosurgeon, kind of thing.
Like, there are things like data room questions. Does anyone know what a data room is? It's basically like where your company exists digitally and they want to know everything, but it's like so well organized, but you're in the middle of building a business. So like you're saving things and putting things away, and like some things are not titled or named or like dated, or you have like your NDAs, they all have to live in one beautiful place. And it's like, that doesn't exist in startup land. So here you're being like, I totally have a data room, yes. And then you're like going and having to like, basically you have like a messy house on your computer or wherever your life exists, where you're building your company. And you're having to clean it up, but like meticulous cleanup. And yeah, don't ask me the data room question. Like, can you send it to me like in the next hour? You're like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, we'll send you the link. So, you can do a very basic data room, kind of just using Dropbox and share folders. And you'll have there potentially your IP, your company and corporation articles, basically all the paper trail that you need. So if you've got, when we did the analysis of the FDA classification, that was in there, right? And different people working for different investors who do due diligence, some will go and look at the patents, some will go and look at something like your papers, some will look at your business model canvas, depending on which kind of investor organization you're looking at. They're quite easy in that respect to set up. And any investor that's going to come in is going to want to look at it. So you can maybe set up a couple with different investors in mind. You can go all the way to the really, really complicated ones where you give the investor a code and it will track which files they've looked at as they've gone through their due diligence, so you get feedback on what they're interested in. There's a whole lot of things, but you need to have at least a basic data room for your investors. Did you have one?
Well, I think it was have you heard of latex and the underlying model that you're basing your entire technology on? That would be the one that I'd go with.
Oh, when they start naming your competitors? Is that what you're saying?
Well,
I love those ones.
25 years ago, it was, you could automate a document with like a language model that would create something for you, but we didn't know anything about this. And so it was those foundational questions that we should have known the history, and something in the academic space, that's what you do, is you study the history of things and how we got to today. And I was not ready to answer that question.
It's like I tell all my students, you've got to do your literature review.
Or like a cap table.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, those are, it's like who owns what percentage of what, how much money have you gotten, how much money have you put in. Also, be sure to make sure that your time is being tracked in terms of like commitments you made, so that, when your company goes big, you can actually say, oh, these are the hours I put in, and this is what the company is worth with my talent and expertise in this space. I think that's like, you always forget that you're valuable, and you need to track that time and effort that you put in. And owning everything, I guess, is in terms of like, you need to own all the digital designs of things. I didn't know that you had to do that, even though you paid a contractor to build it for you. So that was a learning lesson.
That's a trademark and copyright IP. Yeah. Most people think IP, intellectual property, is just patents, but it's not. So there's know-how, there's technical trade secrets that you don't tell anybody, that you keep internally. There's your trade secrets and copyright, which would be around images and logos. One thing to do, how many people here have set up a website based around their kind of company, their startup? Did you check that it hasn't been taken anywhere else? How did you check? Google. Okay, you might want to look into it in a bit more detail. Because people register them, but they won't come up. There's actual agencies that you can ask to check these things.
But do you have one in mind?
Not at the moment, but I can get back to you.
Use is it WIPO? World, yeah, WIPO.
World Intellectual Property.
Yes.
World Intellectual Property Organization.
Yeah.
WIPO.
Go on there and just search for your company name, search for everything, whether it's like design or the way it's spelled, or even just like the logo image itself. We did that. There was like thousands of pages of stuff they had to do, yeah. So yeah, definitely do your research.
And that's why lots of companies have funny names these days.
Yes.
Because all the common obvious ones have gone. Okay, so our last question before we open it up for the floor for questions is, what advice would you have for the students here and those online for who are considering it? Obviously, they're in the Launchpad program, so they are considering the entrepreneurial journey. What kind of advice would you have for them?
I can go first. I would take a look at my personal budget, like take a look at your own financial situation, and does this fit with, am I okay to not be making a salary for the next year? So take a look at your own personal assets. What is this going to cost? Do a small budget for the company, even like just a hypothetical back of the envelope calculation. Just do that quick assessment before you dive right in. Maybe this isn't the right time this year. Maybe next year you can take this year to really do some research and understand your potential market and clients before fully diving in. So do a little bit of preparation before you jump in.
And win the competition at Launchpad. Get some money. We made a list of all the different competitions that were out there and the different startups and accelerators, and which ones we wanted equity and which ones wanted a fee to join and which ones had money as the output, and then we targeted the ones for the money. So does anybody here know the local startup company FredSense? They span out of Faculty of Science. They funded, you have to look on their website and talk to Emily, or they funded their first year of operations through targeted winning of competitions. They always came basically first or second in every competition they targeted. They became pitch experts. And they got 25,000 here, 25,000 there, 100,000 there. So you can be very clinical like that as well.
Dang, I wish I knew that strategy. I should have done that. What would I say to potential, first of all, don't quit your day job, really like do your research, ask people questions. I think the one thing that's really incredible about the ecosystem here in Calgary is just, it's so vast and everyone's so friendly and people will help you and you'll feel like you're, you know, taking up their time because they're so valuable and they're experts in their space. But as a startup, you know, founder, it was incredible who I was speaking to, you know, that they were offering their time and offering their expertise and also offering you their network. They're like, go into my LinkedIn, find who you want to speak to, and let me connect you. And I'm like, this is, you know, unheard of, but you also have to pass the torch on. So ask the question, be sure to always ask people, and then pass that torch forward to the next gen, right?
And always make sure, you know, when somebody has done something like that, say thanks. You'd be amazed how many people don't, right? And it means a lot to an investor. They want to mentor people generally. And coming back to the comment you just made about, you know, Calgary being a friendly place, it is. I've met some very predatory potential investors. Fortunately, ran a mile. But yeah, there are some unsavory characters out there. So while you're in this kind of better environment for that, learn how to spot them, learn who the good guys are, as it were, use the various networks that are available. So Rainforest Alberta, I think, and Launchpad is passing around at lots of events from Platform Calgary and things like this. You'll see startup, yeah, TNT, there's a lot. There's an alphabet soup of them. And then you'll start, you know, getting to know people, getting to know gives you good advice, who's going to basically give you the time, because their time is actually one of the most valuable things they have. So if they say, sure, let's have a coffee, take them up on it, right?
Yeah, I would add to that, predatory investors, what do you watch for? Are they trying to take a piece of your profit, not just like a cut of the company? The more standard a deal, the better. You know, that's what good investors should, you know, work with a standard agreement. And there's a few of those, and people like people at the Hunter Hub here can help you understand what is standard. You know, just use the network to understand and avoid some of those pitfalls that some people have really fell for.
Yeah, sorry, I was going to add to that too, because that's a great comment. It's also like when it comes to legal or it comes to, you know, accounting and other things, find those people or the companies or the corporations that are really like startup friendly. We got referred to to Osler, and they have this startup fund where it's like, I think it's like 6 months or $100,000 first investment, like first sale. So you have this time to like build your corporation, do your trademark, get that logo, get all the kind of like corporate stuff that you need to even apply to some of the grants, to lay it out. And then what's really great actually is they were the ones connecting us with VCs. So they already had done their history of our company. They knew what we were, and they were pitching us and saying, oh no, this VC firm actually might be a good fit for you. You should go for it. And you know, 9 times out of 10, those are great conversations because they will lead to your, you know, perfect fit VC. So you won't be as vulnerable when you're kind of aligned with great like accountants or legal.
Yeah, and Osler's is big as well, right? They're in Toronto as well, if you're in the biotech space. So we were with Osler's for a while. We then moved to a group in the US, though, because it was better for us at the time. But, you know, we have access to Startup Legal Garage here. Is it Startup? No, what's it called? The one? BLG. Startup Legal Garage was one in Stanford, sorry. Too many. You know, get access to the ones that you can to get some advice. There's a lot of kind of standard agreements available that was kind of set up when Silicon Valley was doing things, like safe agreements and things. There's template documents. So as Justin was saying, if the more somebody goes away from that, then they're putting all clauses and side letters and things, that then is a bit of a red flag. It's not terrible, but it can mean, why do you need to go this direction? You know, what's the rationale behind that? You know, we had one of our investors basically just say, oh, you know, I'm just going to cut you a check. I don't care. And I was like, whoa, okay. They are very rare. And you know, that guy's always got my thanks for a long, long time. Okay.
They believe in you, right? So it's
yeah. So the communication had worked.
Yeah, and also I think sometimes it's hard because you're also taking their money, and I think that I also had to learn how hard it was to take someone's money. even though like we love this, we are going to give you some money, and you're like, okay, but I grew up in the business where it's like, right, what if I fail? Now I feel you have these sleepless nights. Like, yes, you have funding now, but oh my gosh, the responsibility just kind of, but you still have to go through it. So it's like, yes, you are responsible for their money, but they also know that like there's a risk that they're taking in you. And as long as you're like honorable and responsible, then you will lead them whichever, like the right way, whichever way it goes.
Okay, so I think now is time for audience Q&A. Hopefully we've seeded lots of things in there. I'm not sure we want to. I don't know.
Just when we see the rat population, like the rat.
Sorry, I want to ask a quick question about the latex thing. Was it really worth it? Like, I mean, when you're looking at like machine learning and the latest techniques you mentioned, Streamlit, that stuff wasn't around back in the day. So really, how important was the past? Is it more just for to please the potential VC, or did you actually learn something from it?
Both. It was good to understand some of the pitfalls that we could expect to see. It was not directly applicable in our day-to-day, but that foundation is really important, I think. And so it's something that you should always do, is do your own due diligence of where this tech evolved from. These days, it's really hard to understand, how does a machine learning model work, like neural nets and deep learning, and I don't think I could fully grasp exactly how things are being matched together in neural nets, but I've got a software team, it's their job and the machine learning guys to understand that and say, hey, this is a great tool, we could use an API and plug into OpenAI today, but maybe we don't want to use that long term. If we want to scale our own model, we should probably think about like a llama model or a foundation model. And so fully understanding like the ins and outs of your tech is really important. So I liked learning about it. We may include some of the automation tools that were included, so something might come out of it, but I don't know. I don't think it was that big a deal that the investor made it to be.
Okay, an online question. I know you guys touched a little bit on this, but how have you gone about market research and proved product market fit?
Just put it in front of everybody, really. I mean, yeah, just listen to what the feedback is. And plus, you also have your own iterations that you want to build. So for Solis, we were just deciding on material too. Like, okay, what's the lifespan? We want to build something that is like, chemical free. We want it to be sustainable. So we want to lead with this initiative of clean cosmetics, defining what that is and being, environmentally responsible. So what is the material? Where is it being sourced? Is it coming across the ocean? How are we doing this? Are we, there was a product market fit. Really just keep testing it, and not with everyone, and not actually like curating your earliest adopters. Like sometimes I feel like in the beginning stages, we want people that are aligned in terms of our ideas and thoughts, because we want to hear kind of like, yes, like you want to get that support and build that confidence within what you're building. But at the same time, it's like, put it in front of the person that hates you the most and let them tell you why it sucks. And be open to that feedback, and then just continue doing it. Because even, we're at 2 years now, and we still have, things that we're never going to get it right, but we're definitely going to be on the path of like moving it in the right direction. So get in front of people that absolutely hate what you're doing is my thought.
Yeah. A marketing plan helps a lot. So not rushing, just, putting a little bit of thought into, where should we be targeting this? What does an early adopter look like? What does our target market look like? What does the overall market look like? And churn. Who's going to dump our product after trying it the first time? And is that okay with us? Do we want play a volume game, low cost, high volume, and it's okay if we churn customers, or if it's seasonal that we expect people to come and go. So it's a whole field. Marketing is there's a lot there. So dive in.
Yeah, actually, on that note, it's when you said focus. So one of the questions we got from our VCs is we don't know how you're going to make money, and it's like I thought it was obvious. Obviously, selling this unit at $500, we're going to make money this way. It's like, okay, well, no, we don't understand. You're targeting to all these people. You should really focus the messaging. And I thought I was super focused. I'm like, everyone that wears makeup, duh. Like, that's my market. Anyone that cares about clean skin and having cosmetic on their product. And it was like, no, I really had to like really define it and get really granular with who that person was and then putting the product in front of that person. Great point.
For us, we were talking to neurosurgeons directly. One of the things we had to learn, not about the product market fit, is like, it was more who was actually the buyer. And for us, it was not the hospital, and it's not the neurosurgeon. You have to have what's known as a reimbursement code, and it's basically the insurance. So then we had to adapt our messaging to explain how we were going to actually get this into hospitals. We talked to people who actually sold to hospitals and insurance agencies in the US and stuff like this. So, you might think, the client, as it were, would be the neurosurgeon. They have a lot of say, but the administration gets in the way.
A lot of red tape.
Oh, thank you so much. It was a very informative panel for me. I have two questions. The first one is, what's the worst thing that an entrepreneur can do? And the second is there any regulations for the cosmetic products that we can meet to produce them in Canada or not?
Sorry, repeat the second question.
The second is there any regulations that we can meet for the production of cosmetic products in Canada or not?
Yeah, you mean regulatory?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely like regulatory requirements. So we're working with cosmetic groups to actually regulate our technology and hardware, which is very scary to VCs because they're like, oh, now you need to be regulated. So when will you actually make money? How does that work? And so you have to kind of, again, with a storyline, tell them, yes, we're in the process of doing this. This is not going to impact our pre-sales, or it's not going to kind of touch on where we're driving revenue because that's ultimately what they care about. What's the biggest mistake an entrepreneur can do? Geez, lots of things. Not listen and be incredibly not abrasive, but confrontational, not kind.
Don't lie to your investors. Yeah. So when you've got problems, tell them. They'll have seen this before. They'll have probably invested in 10 or other companies at the same time as yours. And they might be able to help you. But if you're like running around pretending everything is fine, they're going to go eventually when everything falls apart. Why did you not tell us 6 months ago? Right? And that leads back to once I was in an investor meeting and a group went up before the investors. And one of the investors, very big famous investor, said, oh yeah, this group listens to advice. Eventually. That was not what you want a big investor to say about your company, right? Because it means you're hard to work with, right?
Watch the BlackBerry movie that just came out. The shareholder stock stuff. Don't do that. Whatever you do, don't mess with shareholder agreement plans and commit fraud essentially.
Yeah, don't do anything that the guy who started WeWork did. That's a great podcast. There's a few good audiobooks, so.
Cryptocurrency guy's trial as well.
Yeah, there's so many stories of failures. So read, it's really entertaining, but you get a lot of really good information out of failure stories. So there's 1,000 ways to tank your company. So you may as well just be as educated as you can, listen to people around you, and there's always a bit of luck that's involved.
Yeah, it reminds me when I was doing diving, I used to read a dive book, which is basically dive accidents, and it was a list of real accidents and what happened, and how you didn't know when you were reading the actual article whether the person at the end of it lived or died. It alternated, and then it was like, oh, how could you have done it differently? You need to know how things fail to avoid it, right? And stuff. Sorry, another question.
Thanks for sharing your experience. But in your experience, like how much of entrepreneurship, how much of the work is actually marketing? Like, is it half of it? Is it like 75% of it? Is it like 90% of it is all marketing?
In some respects, you can say it's all marketing all the time because you have to market to your investors to get the money. You have to market to the bank to say you're doing things. You have to market yourself to the FDA to convince them what you're doing is a safe product. You could argue that it's all kind of marketing because you're forward-facing. That's an easy answer, maybe.
Yeah, I totally agree with that because a lot of times in the hair and makeup space, you're always the person behind the camera. You're always the person behind, that wedding picture that the person had. So it was really difficult for me to be front-facing because I really dislike that, and I didn't realize it until it started. But you are essentially marketing. You're marketing to your customer. You're marketing to your distributors. You're marketing to even people that want to, manufacture with you because they don't want to stop their run line and, have 500 units be batched just for you. And you're like, you don't know if they want to also invest in that company too. So I think it's make these great relationships, pick the right people. It's hard. You're never going to get it right all the time, but definitely aim for that. But I guess, yeah, it is marketing. You're right. Is anyone looking for a job? In marketing specifically.
I think the CEO is the #1 salesperson of a company. They should be so passionate about the idea. This is everything they've ever dreamed of doing. And every minute of every day, it's whether it's like we're saying to an investor, to the public, could be in an elevator and just some random person. You should have, 30-second elevator pitch down. And you should just be pumped to be doing it.
I think I once heard a great CEO means the cash extraction officer.
I think the other thing too is also in terms of VC space, I think a lot of times we forget to also put our own stipulations and rules into certain things. That's another thing that I would say, be mindful of where you can put your input and make kind of not demands, let's just call them demands, make demands on contracts or, NDAs or conversations. Obviously you never want to give a VC an NDA before even presenting them with the product. It's that's just a no-go. Learn kind of the rules of the environment and adapt there. But also you can also input things that you would really like and believe in. I mean, one of the questions for us when building hardware was, it got really stressful. It got incredibly expensive. Should we just screw it and go to Asia? But that was fundamentally not what we were based on. So it would be a lie to our customers, to our VCs, to everyone that was believing in what we were developing at the time. Yeah.
Okay, we have another question online for. Okay, perfect. For Rana, you said you have a problem with marketing costs. What did you do to solve this problem, as this is a problem that many businesses face?
Yeah, in the early stages, marketing costs can be incredibly expensive because, again, hardware, it's really expensive to build the unit and get all those sort of little pieces of, production line. So it was more about like you said, it was more about you really need to now sell this thing. You've built it to its perfect model. It needs to now sell. You need to start generating money 80% and go. And that was how I solved it was I just had to say I had to hire somebody and I needed somebody really incredibly talented and agile. So I felt like you just kind of have to write that job description and put it out there. And it typically will work itself out. And you can kind of clean up what the description looks like and guide that new hire on what it is that they're doing, what it is that we're the mission is.
Yeah, you need to, again, if you know your market, you're going to know the niches where you want to advertise, right? So you will then target that area and then you work out what advertising is going to be. Is it traditional print media? Probably not. Yeah, you don't want to be advertising brain machine interfaces for epilepsy in kids' games. Yeah. So you need to look at where you're going, and that's why you need someone that knows that experience in that space and how to do that, and I don't.
And software as a service, I read that you should put up to 50% of your revenue back into marketing, especially in those early stages.
Yeah. It's incredibly expensive. Yeah.
And things like ChatGPT got 1 million users in a few days. So they use the power of their marketing to do that. Whereas small businesses, getting 1 million users, that could take years without the right marketing tools in place.
Yeah, so you build these like really, one of the things that we tried to do is actually create affiliate programs. So like your network loves you, your early adopters love you. What you do is you leverage those early customers and say, okay, we want to give you, 2% on every referral sale. So what we did is we ended up creating a promo code for every single new Instagram user, and we would basically just invite them to share that promo code with them. So like they get 2% of the sale of whatever they refer, and also for their unit. So that was one way that we were leveraging like awareness, because we're playing with big fish, so, and we're so small.
Just a question to Jason. You mentioned that you do SWOT analysis regularly in your company. It's not something that I see regularly done in in the company that I work for. Just wondering what this process looks like, and usually for software companies, there's so much things going on that we don't have time to do this. Have you seen any benefits for this?
Sure. Yeah, well, your SWOT analysis is looking at strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats. Strengths and weaknesses are what you can control, the internal part of your organization. So we think about our strengths as, we got a really good team here who knows the tech really well, but maybe on our weaknesses, we don't have the right marketing guy to really get this out there. The external threats, so opportunities and threats, those are things that are always changing, and so those are weekly updates in the team meeting. Hey, have you seen this? Let's share that article. This company is coming up with this product. And so opportunities, is there something that we can go out and buy? Is there a new tool that we can use, a new model? A threat is, ChatGPT just decided to automate PDF uploading. How does that affect our business? So it's internal, external analyses, and you're doing it constantly. Especially the externals. We're talking about them with the team. Internally, things that we can really affect, and maybe picking up some slack where we see a weakness. I would say more often it's the external things that we're talking about more often with the team.
Okay, and this is going to be our final question. If anyone has any follow-up questions, the panelists might be willing to stay an extra few minutes to answer anything you might have.
Thank you for your time. I was wondering if you have any recommendations on how to think about sharing with investors.
Sorry, what?
Yeah, how to distribute shares with investors.
So an investor comes in, what share percentage do they get? Oh yeah, that's an interesting one.
That's a cap table question.
Yeah, it's a cap table question. It's a finance kind of question. You need to understand how much you want to give away of your company for a certain amount. I once had an investor say, give me a third of your company and I'll make you successful. Just like that. Then it's like, no, how many shares, how many, what money you're going to give us, no valuation, just give me a third of your company on a piece of paper, kind of thing. So that's between you and your co-founders as to what you are going to accept. If you are in a company that needs to have investment, you're going to have that conversation early. If you've got the runway to carry on and not do it, the longer you can do it without having external investors, the better. You will own more and have more value later to be able to argue to an investor why they should only get so many cents on the share. So there's a lot of books about cap tables and how to value startups, especially when at early stage. It's kind of tricky.
Yeah, because it's kind of a trap with like needing money and also wanting to keep ownership of your company. I think, stress it early on in terms of understanding what a cap table is, understanding like what's your breaking point, and then working back from there. And then also asking that investor what sort of like, are they even worth that, third of the company, I guess pitch or.
Well, if an investor is coming into an early stage company, into a startup, they're not going to know what your business is. They don't know the expertise that you have got. So if they're coming in to take over, that's a bad sign. What they want to do is incentivize you enough to continue to make it into a value so they get a return on their investment. But if they're coming in to the point where they will own everything and they have the controlling interest, then they've taken over your company and they might do whatever they want with it. Right? So that's not really somebody that's investing in your company to see it grow. So that's a bad sign. That's something to look for.
Yeah, and the more episodes of Shark Tank, the more you understand the different deal structures. You know, some companies are more than happy to, and other ones don't even think about it, like stay away. But those investors are sitting up there saying, how am I going to get my money back? What's a good deal for me? And so you have to think about it from their perspective and what you're trying to get out of it.
Put yourself in their shoes and say, what would it benefit me and how would I, look at it from the other side? I think that, and then play with it and constantly come and approach it, because it's going to take a long time for you to get a very interested investor. But if you're coming and already kind of establishing and done your homework and you're establishing this conversation with them, they appreciate that a lot. It's like you've done your homework on them, they've done their homework on you, and now you're negotiating this deal where you can actually start talking those numbers through. So I had one instance where I wasn't ready to do, $300,000 at X amount of valuation. I wanted to do this much. I wasn't comfortable with it. So I was delaying the signing of it, and it was just a matter of like, you have to feel comfortable in that agreement, and if you don't, there's ways of having that conversation and adjusting. And they were like, yeah, we get it, we'll do this. It's like, oh, okay, this is great.
And understand that there's different types of investors, right? There's angel investors, and it's more of a personal relationship. There's actual kind of more institutional investors. There's VCs that may be involved with a fund. What cycle is the fund in? So they're rushing to basically generate the profits for the fund. If it's like a 7-year fund and it's in year 5, they're pushing to get a really quick turn on their investment. If it's a new fund that's got a 5-year timeline and has just started, they're probably going to be looking at something in 5 years' time. It depends on the investor, it depends where you are at, what you think the value of the company is. It's business black magic.
It's kind of like dating. Like you're getting into it when you're VCing or you're kind of finding your team or co-founders or whatever. I feel like it's a marriage. Okay, it's going to take a long time for you guys to say yes, and then once you do, you're in it, and you want to be married to these people. Like really want to be married to these people. So you have to look at everything about them and find that right fit. So yeah, it's a long process, and when it goes bad, it goes really bad. So it's like a divorce. So make sure you have your prenup ready.
Yeah, have all your paperwork set up at the beginning properly.
Awesome. Thank you so much to our panelists. Ricky is going to turn on the screen for everyone in attendance. If you can please scan the QR code, give your feedback, same as last week, where it's literally just one question and you don't have to write anything. So big round of applause in the meantime for our panelists. Thank you all so much for taking the time today to be here.